Hey, good morning, everyone. We are doing a special morning edition of Walking This Way's Impact Was podcast. I'm your host, Furman Jackson Jr. We're broadcasting once again from the DFW, that is Dallas Fort Worth, Texas. For those who wondering what it is, yeah, we are doing a special edition this morning, and of course, for the month of May, we've been doing the New Faces of Dallas series for the whole entire month of May. We're introducing different men, women who are doing extraordinary things here in the city of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, making an impact on people's lives and just doing something they love to do. And I have one of the individuals this morning. He's the author of Blessings in the Streets. He's an entrepreneur, book author, husband, father, great man, humble man, servant of the Most High God. Joseph Roberts, welcome, sir. You're no stranger to the platform. I know I'm glad you reminded me this morning because I didn't think until you sent me the information, but like I mentioned, it was always the ram in the bush. I said, let's do it this morning at 10. You accepted the invitation. And that's one of the advantages of being a business owner. You make your own schedule. You don't have to punch in nobody else's clock, but you set your own rules as your entrepreneurship. So that's the advantages of it. So I appreciate you once again, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again. It's good to be back on the show, man. Checking you out.
And also, and I know you're doing a lot of great things around the city, around the world, of course. You've been doing a lot of interviews on different platforms. You had the book going on. I know you be at different events, book signing, you name it. So, how has this adventure been for you? Being a well-known author, you being invited on different platforms. So, how has this journey been for you?
It's been, I would say, both exciting and just humbling. Just the opportunity to be able to share your voice with the world, share your story with the world, and just watching how God has moved in terms of just opening up, as you said, opening up platforms, opening up rooms that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to walk in on my own credibility or strength. So it's been a journey. Obviously, as you already know, when you're trying to do a big work like this, there are going to be some days that are more trying than others, but that's where having that relationship with God comes in because He keeps you, supported and covered and protected along the way. Just kind of keeping you disciplined and locked in with what it is that you need to do in order to continue to persevere, continue to push forward, and like I said, get that message out that He's created you to share with the world. So yeah, it's been an exciting ride and still a lot of work to do, still a lot of hills to climb, but I'm just doing my thing each and every day to get one step closer um, to impacting and influence at the levels that I know that God would desire for me to do. So that's kind of been my journey so far, man, and I'm just enjoying the ride. So
And it has been a humbling spirit. I met you at the Dallas Boss event. Was it late last year, early this
yeah, seems like
year?
it's
It was around
it's
that
been a
time.
minute. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it has been a minute, and you was there, your lovely family, working together at your table, taking pictures, autographing the book. I just love the professionalism that you portrayed with you and your family. Y'all was dressed to the nines. Y'all were very presentable, more business oriented, which that's what we need to see when it comes to entrepreneurship because we see a lot of some upcoming entrepreneurs comes up, they dress any kind of way, they don't
Mhm.
articulate their words, they don't explain anything, they just looking at, I'm just trying to make a quick buck. But you, business oriented, organized, structured, your family, and I gotta say I respect that to the highest, and people need to see that because more you be presented in a professional setting, people can come and really get something out of it instead of just here, take this. But it's not like that at all with you. It's just
Right.
really everything done decent and in order the way God wants it to be.
And I appreciate that, man. And as you said, the family aspect of it is huge as well. Having them with me that day at the event, that was one of my very first, early events. So having that family support, knowing that they're, consistently trying to, not only pour into you in ways to, that will help you elevate what it is that you're doing, but just being there to pray for you, just being there to support you, to encourage you, to give you that that confidence that you need that, hey, this is not an accident. This is not just something you stumbled into. God has set this thing up for you on purpose. And just to know that, we're here to support you, so, having a wonderful wife and daughter that does just that and holds me accountable even, that, that's huge, man. And we need that. I need that. I'm sure you have people in your circle that do that for you. And it's just an awesome thing because, when you're on this journey, especially when you're doing a big work that you believe that God has actually called you to do, it can sometimes be a lonely place, man. It can feel like it's just you against the world, and you don't always have that rally of support that you might have thought that you would have when you first started out. But what you soon learn is that, as long as you got God in your corner and you're trusting His path and you're trusting His timing with everything, things just seem to play out in their timing in the way that it needs to play out. Even if it's a little bit different than how you might have initially visioned it, it's still in the perfect timing, in the right moment. It all works out, um, and uh, and you have an opportunity to be in position to be a blessing to people in whatever way that is. And you just really don't know how much of an impact, because everybody that you bless is not going to click the like or click the follow. Some people you're just blessing and you may never hear from them. You just have to know that the work that you're doing it in an authentic and sincere and meaningful way, to where you're changing lives. You are helping somebody that's going through something. And it's always good, of course, obviously, when you do have people who verbally relay that to you. Every time I hear that, I don't take that for granted. Like I said, that's what makes the work so humbling. It's like, I loved your book. You helped me with that. Or I loved what you said on this particular live or on this particular podcast. I needed to hear that. What you posted, I needed to hear that. You have no idea. So it's those moments, man, that just makes all of this so special and so fulfilling, bigger than what any 9 to 5 can provide you. It's the fulfillment of it. So
Yeah, most definitely. And like you said, the groundwork, being focused. If you look at the work of Christ when He walked the earth, He knew what His mission was. His mission was to usher in the kingdom, God's kingdom, how the kingdom operate. Jesus was not moved by other people's opinions. He knew His mission. He knew where He came from. And just having this conversation with you, you knowing where you came from, you knowing what it's about, what the journey is about, who I'm here to serve, who I'm here to please, that we know that when He's lifted up, He'll draw all men unto Him. And I know that's what your mission is, because a lot of people, Joe, may never have read the Bible, never in their life. But by you, and I heard this down before, that a lot of times we could be the Bible to other people may not have read the Bible,
mhm,
but they get interested to see, wow, okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing an image on how a man of God carried himself, or how a woman of God carried herself. And I'm looking at the script, which I posted on my page this morning, that God already gave us the blueprint,
mhm.
and you being a man of faith know that. But it's up to us to follow along with that blueprint in order to see the fulfillment of His will come to pass.
Exactly. And as you shared, I mean, the blueprint is out there. And when people like yourself, myself, and others, put ourselves out there to kind of share that message, it's not even a scenario of us coming before anyone as if we're all perfect and got it all figured out. I still fall down. I still slip up. I still misstep. But what I've learned is that, God loves me so much that, you know, he doesn't mock me when I fall down. He doesn't forget about me. He doesn't desert me. He just says, "Hey, let me help you back up." He dusts me off. He reminds me that he's still with me. And sometimes, again, sometimes he has to allow us to have those bumps in the road to develop us, to make us stronger, to make us wiser, to make us aware, because he understands the impact of the mission that he set each of us on individually to achieve, to accomplish, to do. And so part of that involves you going through the storms of life. Part of that involves you knowing what it means to be attacked, whether it's an attack by, fellow, men and women around you, or whether it's at a higher level of a spiritual attack. You got to know what that's like, and you got to be prepared to go through those things in order for you to have those testimonies to be able to share with other people and let them know that, hey, in spite of the storms that I've been through, in spite of the attacks that I've gone under, in spite of all the stresses and and things of that nature that we encounter, that doesn't have to be the ending of the story. I can still withstand those hits. I can still step back and understand that, you know, these weights of life are not meant for me to pick up, but it's for me to defer, to allow, God to pick up for me. But what I should do is lock arms with him so we can go through that storm together, knowing when we come out on the other side, we're better, we're stronger, we're wiser as a result of that. And that's been something to, over the years and over the months and the weeks and everything, especially in the works that, that I'm doing now. And like I said, likewise with yourself, is you just get better at it. You start to learn more of it. And eventually gets to the point where you start to master this thing so well that unless I tell you what my storm is, you're not going to be able to see it on me, because it's because of God's covering. It's because of God's protection. It's because of me refusing to give in to the pressure of just, getting into my own pity party, getting into my own, feeling down and feeling defeated. Yeah, life gets rough sometimes, and you're permitted as a human being to have that moment of anger or frustration or sadness. You can still have that. You're human, but you can't stay stuck there. That's the key thing. You can't stay stuck there. You got to say, okay, now that this has happened, let me talk to God about this. Let me help me make sense of it all, because I know you wouldn't have allowed it to happen if there wasn't purpose in it. If there was, there's always purpose in that pain. There's always purpose in that in that pressure. So, learning more and more each day. This is a reason behind this. It's not personal. It's a reason for it, and this is going to help you become what I need you to be. So,
Oh yeah, most definitely. I gotta give a shout out to Miss Woods, my lovely, beautiful friend of her. She's in the comment section. She said, "Good morning, Kings."
all
Big shout
right.
out to her. New Focus. New Focus is doing extraordinary things in DFW. Big shout out to her. Keeping the great work, giving back into the next generation. Miss Woods, she's been on here before. She agreed with you were saying, Joe. What you saying? She said, "Yes, sir." She agreed with what you were saying earlier. So we thank her for tuning in, hanging out with us on this platform this morning, and just
Absolutely.
talk about the work, the focus. And people ask me this all the time, Joe. They ask me how I do it. How I just stay consistent. I stay humble. I know who my source is. I know I get my power from, and He's watching over us right now. Of course, and you
Mhm.
know that. So I tell anybody, just stay in focus. Stay consistent despite of don't get into our flesh. Paul says no good thing don't come out the flesh. We know that Jesus said the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. And we feed into the flesh, we know the flesh get tired, the flesh get hungry, all the other stuff. But if you allow that flesh get in front of you and say, well, I don't feel like working on my business today. Well, I don't feel like promoting it today. Well, I don't feel like marketing today, then you lost because you're allowing your flesh to take control. Remember, the
Mhm.
spirit is willing. The spirit is going to press through despite of how I'm feeling physically. But I know spiritually I'm unstoppable. I know spiritually I'm untouchable. I know spiritually I have work to do for the Most High. So I have to let the spirit man override the flesh man, because if I don't, I'm gonna lose. So I tell everybody, you have to stay consistent. Don't get me wrong, I get like that too. I get to the point where I don't feel like putting flyers together. I get to the point sometimes where I don't feel like marketing. I get sometimes I don't feel like booking, but I have to override my flesh because the flesh get tired, the flesh get weak, the flesh get vulnerable. But it's like that spirit in you say, you know what? We gotta keep going. We gotta keep pushing. No matter how hard it may look, we still gonna win this thing out. So
Mhm.
that's how I just be looking at it, Joe. Really, I get to that point too. But also I like what you mentioned, even though we may have mistakes, we do that, but we learn from them as well. We learn from the do's and don'ts. And what else about Beautiful Life about Joe, that we can learn from other people's mistakes. We can learn from other people's decisions too as well. So let me learn from this. Instead of pointing a finger at this person, okay, I can learn from what they did that was not good, that to make sure that I don't do that or put myself or embarrass my family
Mhm.
in the midst of it too, because we don't want to shame our family at the end of
Exactly.
the day.
Totally agree with that, man. I mean, like you said, the foundation, and I think the very first time that you and I, met, when I had the opportunity to speak at that event, that was the leading thing that I talked about in those few minutes of time that I had, was that if you want your business to strive and thrive, or any relationship for that matter, God has to be connected to that. You can't, to be an entrepreneur, to be an author, to be a great father, to be a great husband or wife, to be whatever it is that you want to be a great friend. God has to be connected to that relationship. If you're leaving him out of it and you're operating strictly on flesh only, strictly on human capabilities, that's only going to get you so far. And at some point, you're going to have this breakdown. At some point, when challenging times comes in the midst of it all, you're not going to know how to be able to keep that thing together. It's going to fall apart, mainly because God was never a part of that. We didn't allow him that access to the relationship. You think about marriages. Marriages, anybody who's been married, that's not for the weak at all. It's a very challenging, at times can be a very stressful thing to endure. But by having God in the midst of that, it allows you to get through the difficult times. That's the difference between those who are able to sustain, let's just say, versus those who, are so quick to just say, the first time that there's a sign of trouble or friction, they're ready to just throw it all to the side. The same thing happens with our business ventures. The moment it gets a little hard, the moment that you don't have the support that you thought that you were going to have, you're just ready to quit on what God might have gifted you to do, but you're throwing it away, but mainly because you didn't allow him the very gift that he gave you. You didn't allow him to be a part of that process. You didn't allow him to be your counsel. You didn't allow him to be your guidance for your direction as to how to impact, how to reach, who to reach, where, in what ways to do it. You just have no idea the difference that makes for those who've chosen to leave God out. I'm here to tell you, not something that I heard, but something that I know personally. When you involve him in that process and everything that you do, it makes a world of difference as to how it plays out. The storms are going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But
Right.
again, we can't withstand the storms of life on our own strength, on our own doing. We have to have a divine intervention, and that relationship with God makes all the difference in the world. It's the difference between us being stuck or defeated altogether versus overcoming and then having that testimony to share with somebody else, to be that living example of what it looks like, to be of encouragement and to be of inspiration to somebody else who might be going through. So that's that again. Not something I heard, something that I know, something that I know and others who subscribe to that. They understand, but the problem is more people need to know. More
Right.
people need to know. You and I, we just personally witnessed just the other day a senseless random act of violence. Right here in the area, with the shooting at the mall. That's a perfect indication about more of God is needed in this world. People, because that kind of thing, to do such a thing, to innocent people, that's not just somebody who's got a mental problem. That's just not somebody who's going through a challenging time. That's somebody who doesn't know God. Because if you know God, no matter how frustrating life may get, no matter how challenging things may be, it will never lead you to do that.
That's
Just that relationship, that connection. So, just control over your life, just balance in your thinking and your thought process. Yeah, again, we're going to all make mistakes, even those of us who are firm believers of Jesus Christ. We read our Bibles, we go to church. We Christians make mistakes. Christians are not perfect. But it's knowing who you're in relationship with and knowing that you always have that support system in place, knowing that you have someone who unconditionally loves you and wants the best for you in life, someone that you can go to for anything, no matter what the need is, and he will be there for you, and he will walk you through this journey of life and all that comes with it. So,
Yeah, most definitely. And we know about that tragic incident that happened that past Saturday in Allen, Texas. I'm at the outlet, and I think it was almost about to be a previous one in downtown Fort Worth, where the guy went on social media and they eventually caught him. That it never came to pass,
mm,
but it's to the point now. Joe, actually, do it feel now to the point people would be afraid to go out now just about the incident that happens?
mhm.
You just out about, maybe you out with you by yourself, you with your wife, your children, friends, and then this incident happened. And now I don't want people to feel like, oh no, I can't go out nowhere. It's not, I have to stay in my house now.
Right.
Remember that the Bible said God did not give the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. In your opinion, do you feel they may be playing on people's mental psyche now, that they will be afraid just to step outside, even just to go to the mailbox now because of what happened last Saturday?
Absolutely. I mean, there are going to be some people who will go to that extreme where they will never, whether it's that specific mall or any mall for that matter, there are going to be some people who are going to be impacted in that way, and now they'll strictly stay clear of that. And you can understand, to a point, why they might feel that way. I mean, because that's pretty shocking to deal with. You know how big that Allen Outlet Mall is. I mean, that's huge. Been there many times myself. Um, don't even live far from there, so those people just randomly going to the mall thinking everything is just a regular Saturday afternoon to do some shopping and hang out, not knowing that they would, some of them would not return home that night alive. So, yes, are there going to be some people who are going to be impacted by that to that degree? Yes, but when we think about it from a spiritual perspective, I guess at the end of the day, there always has been. Let's just put it like that. There's always been some type of threat. There's always been some type of danger in our world. It's just that the difference between, say, back in biblical times versus 2023 is that it's just getting more and more crazy. It's becoming more and more the norm. I think when they advertised, for example, like with the Allen mass shooting, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think they were saying that this was like the 199th one active shooting so far this year. Just the fact that because I couldn't tell you personally what the other 198 were. That's just how regular of a thing that it's becoming, the craziness of this kind of stuff, and just the whole craziness of just the world in general about how we think and how we're just functioning, how we're treating people. It's just, and truth be told, the Bible speaks of this. This is what we talk about when we talk about the last days. Stuff like this um is the kind of crazy chaos type of thing that's going to happen. But at the same time, while we're still here, particularly for those of us who are believers, we have an opportunity to let others know that, hey, there's a better way to live life, and it's not living a life in fear. Because I don't care how safe, how precautious you are, there's no guarantees that even in all the safety and all the precautions and all of the quote unquote safe neighborhoods that you choose to live in and all that kind of stuff, there's no guarantee that you can't also be a victim of that. But you can't walk around in life being scared like that, because again, at the end of the day, if I have God in my life, if I got that relationship, then I'm trusting and believing that each and every day, that when I walk out the door, whether it's to work, whether it's to the grocery store, whether it's to the mall or wherever, that He is with me, that He is covering me, that He's protecting me. And if by chance on one particular day He decides that this is the day that I am brought home with Him, then so be it. It's the day that I'm brought home with Him. If He allowed that situation to happen for me or for someone else, and this was the day to bring it on, it was already predestined anyway for that to happen. So it is what it is. It's just that, but yeah, to walk around with that spirit of fear, as you stated earlier, we're not supposed to do that. Whether it's the fear of the world stuff or whether it's the fear of doing the works that God has called us to do, because sometimes we walk in the spirit of fear of that. I'm afraid to 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 start a Walk in His Ways podcast. I'm afraid to write a Blessings in the Street book. I'm afraid to get on lives and like this and dare mention God along the way. I'm afraid to do that because what will people think? Well, there going to be some who are going to judge me because they've known me for a long time and they know I've made some mistakes. Who am I to talk about God? Or maybe there's some who are going to get turned off because they don't want to watch a podcast that mentions God. And we can't be afraid like that. If God has purposed on us in our hearts to do a thing, especially when it's about His work, then we just got to do it, and we got to do it unapologetically, unashamed, and knowing that He has us covered and that our message is going to reach who it needs to reach. And that's going to likely include some people who initially might be a little defensive to what you got to say, who
Right.
might, because again, there's always that opportunity that you might touch somebody who maybe that morning they wasn't feeling nothing about Jesus, God, or anything else, but you could say something, that you could share an experience of something, you could conduct yourself in such a way that triggers something within and makes them think differently about it. Like, I wasn't like this at first, but since I heard you, I'm thinking a little different. I was reminded just the recently I was sharing with somebody, like with my book. Now my book obviously doesn't just exclusively talk about God, but there's obviously God elements in the book. And I was sharing with somebody that one of the people who gave me one of the greatest compliments about my book, who purchased it, is a gentleman that I actually know for a fact is an atheist. Now I don't know, to be honest with you, if that converted him in any way or whatever, but just the mere fact that if you have a product or a service out there that highlights God in the midst of it, and someone who's of total opposite faith and belief systems in that regard pays compliment to the work that you did, that they actually got something out of it, that just step alone lets me know that you did the right thing in putting something like this together, because you just simply have no idea who you might be impacting and in what way you might be impacting. And while that may not have changed his life in that particular moment in time, that doesn't mean that there won't come a time where he will reflect on things that I may have shared in the book, or maybe reflect on some other encounters that he has that might cause him to make that shift. So you just never know. But you just got to walk in what, as your podcast says, you got to walk in his ways. You got to do it the way that he's placed on your heart to do, and not be worried about the opinions, not be worried about the likes and the followers. Just do what God has called for you to do. Do it at the highest level. Do it in the most sincere of truth, and then let God take care of the rest. That's just the mindset that you have to be in.
And I agree, John, what you're saying. Just sitting here listening to you talk, and I know it's just the process, enjoying the process, having fun with the process.
Mhm.
You know what? I get a kick out, Joe. I get a kick out of the practice. I get a kick out of the studying. I get a kick out of going to the gym. I get a kick out of just being a student of the game. When I say that, that's the process of becoming greater. Everybody think because you have millions of followers, or you may have people saying your name, or you may have people inviting you, this and that, they think that's success. The success is the grind. The success is up late at night. The success is you as being an author. You think you was there the late nights, early in the morning, putting things on hold because you had a deadline to get the book out. But that's the successful part. When it's out now, that just the success. That was just the evidence, the work that I did. But the process of it is me doing my research. I'm up writing. I'm late nights, early mornings.
Mhm.
To me, that's fun. To me like putting the show together. The process when I started back in '09, you know, the talking, not having questions, going off the top of my head, but always becoming a student, staying humble with it. That's fun to me. That's a
Yeah,
success.
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. If you hear people who have gone through similar uh, challenges, one of the things that they say is you need to focus on appreciating the journey. We got to learn how to love the journey. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We know the end result is great, whether it's a financial end of the story or whether it's, but you got to learn to embrace the journey. That's why the Bible teaches us that no matter what's going on in your life, you're supposed to count it all joy. The good, the bad, everything in between, you count it all joy because it's in the journey. It's like, because when you get to that end result, I'm sure when you first launched that podcast, when I first had that book in my hand, it was like you first had that moment like, wow, I actually made this happen. But then you also think back to all that you went through to get to that point, and you're like, man, who would have known? Who would have ever thought that with every bump in the road that I encountered, with every late night or early morning moment, with every time that I almost gave up, that I almost said, you know what, maybe this ain't for me. For every moment but I kept on pressing, I kept on persevering, I kept on fighting,
That's
despite
it.
the odds, despite the naysayers, despite the ones who were telling you that you'll never do this, that this is silly, this is stupid, you can't do this, despite even the ones who acted like that they were cheering you on all along, only to discover when you actually achieved it, they were nowhere to be found. Despite all of that, you did a thing that God placed on your heart to do. You stuck with the grind. You made it to the end in terms of getting it out there. And I'm saying the end, but I say that loosely because it's not
Right.
the end. Because
Sure.
you know it's like, yeah, I got this podcast out here now. Yeah, I got this book out here now. But it's like, but now what? What you gonna do with it? It's now a reality. It now exists, but now you got to get it out to the world. So
That's it.
yeah, it's now I got to make sure that other people, because it's great that I know about it. It's great that a
True.
couple of people over here may know about it, and a couple of people over there may know about it. But this was never God would never put something in your heart to create, to do, for it to be just so minimal, so minimized that it was just only going to be for just a couple of folks. When he put that podcast on your heart, when he put that book on my heart, when he put all the things that we're still things that are still to come, that people don't even know about, that we're working on behind the scenes to come. We put that on our heart. He didn't put it on there for it to be small. He put it on it to be big, to
Yeah.
be elevated at a level that was way over and beyond anything that you or anybody else could have ever imagined you putting together or producing. So that has to be our constant mindset. That has to be our constant mission. We can't just be satisfied. It's even when I was thinking about this morning, it's even when you think about giving your life to Christ. A lot of believers get caught up in that mindset that they think that if today is the day that I get saved and give my life to Christ, like as if that's the end of the story. No, the story is actually just starting. Yeah, it's great that you gave your life to Christ. It's great that you know where you will spend eternity when this life in this world comes to an end. But you got some work to do now. This is just the beginning. I got things. What I'm saying, God has things for you to do. He's saying, look, now that you signed up in my army, I got some work for you to do. And guess what? All them storms that you went through to get to this point, they're actually getting ready to be elevated even more. But you're going to be all right through it. I got you covered. So don't even sweat that. It's coming harder. You thought it was hard before. It's getting ready to really come hard now. But you're ready for it. So it's not going to even phase you. It's going to come. You're going to have that initial reaction. But then you're going to be like, okay, what we doing? Let's and you're just gonna keep grinding, you're just gonna keep pushing, you're gonna keep elevating, and you're gonna keep expanding what it is that has been placed on your heart to do. And as long as you stick to that, and as long as you know who's you need to be connected to and who you need to trust and follow, as they say, the sky's the limit. It's the possibilities are endless as to where this thing goes. So that's the mindset that I've been, working very hard on my own to individually embrace, but also, of course, when the opportunities present themselves, to share that same messaging with other people so that they too can be empowered and they too can be encouraged as well in whatever it is that God has called them to do. So,
Yeah, and that's awesome. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, Joe, and after the commercial break, we're gonna jump right back in our conversation, blessings in the streets. So stay tuned. It is some gems dropping this morning, of course, and I just love this. It's early morning conversation with my brother Joe as well. So what's up, everybody? We are back here on Walking This Way's Impact Force podcast. I'm your host, Furman Jackson Jr. I'm the CEO and founder of Walking This Way's podcast. We are broadcasting right now in the DFW. This is our New Faces of Dallas series. We'll continue for the month of May. Extraordinary individuals such as Joe himself doing extraordinary things around the state of Texas, not just in Texas, but around the world, of course. Joe, you have an extraordinary adventure ahead of you. Like I said, every time I see you on from Instagram to TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all social media platforms, you're constantly doing interviews. You're constantly doing these settings. Like this journey. Matter of fact, how do you fit it all in your schedule? Because it seems like every day you're doing shows. Every day you're out doing this. You're out doing that. How do you maintain this schedule along with family in the midst of it? How explain that to people so people understand the balance? Because a lot of times people we be excited about one aspect of our life, but then we'll start lacking in other aspects.
mhm.
In your opinion, how do you handle all that?
Yeah, and as you said, it really is a balancing act. I mean, even as I, venture off into doing the things that I'm doing now, I mean, I do, I do still have I do still have a regular job that I work. So when you have that, and you're also trying to build your brand, and develop and move in your calling with what you're doing, as well as trying to make sure that you got time for, your family and just the other, whether it's the honeydews that you got to do, or whether it's just the other random errands that you have. And of course, there's activities that I'm also connected with at my church. So it can get very challenging. And to be honest with you, it's something that I continue to work on in terms of trying to make sure that you have that balanced attack of time. And I think what's really critical, especially when you are in that entrepreneurial state of mind, um, is that in the planning of your calendaring and all of that, you have to make sure that you're carving out time where it's just about you resting up, whether it's about you getting refreshed and restored. Because at the end of the day, you could have all of the wonderful, impactful, powerful information to share with the world. But if you're trying to do that pouring from an empty cup, it makes it extremely difficult for you to be uh, as beneficial as God intended you to be. And if you're not careful, you run the risk of actually being burnt out. And
Yeah.
that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to have all this gift inside of you, all of what God has poured into you to share with the world, but because you didn't love you enough to carve out that time for you to refresh, restore. And it's not just sleep. You might have a particular, hobby that you like to do. It may be connecting with some friends who are, meaningful to you. It could be, I know you do a lot with, working out. Whatever that is, it that has to be a part of it too. That's where the self-care comes in. We have to make sure that we're incorporating that self-care element. It is just as significant as the work itself. Um, we all know it, even people who are not Bible readers know that, on the seventh day, God rested. I mean, if it was cool for God to take a rest, then why would it not be? And with all that He did, you know, why would you not want to make sure that you're doing the same? I can't give what God has called for me to give. You can't give what God has called you to give if we're running on fumes. We
Right.
have to pause. So that means that, and nothing wrong with chasing the bag, but you can't chase it so much to where you're wearing yourself down. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to connect and reach out and pour into people. But when do you pour into you? It has to be a reciprocal kind of situation that you got going on. You got to make sure that you're taking out that time. And that's something, even to be honest with you, that I've had to learn even before I even got off into the entrepreneurial zone of it all. You're working, you're doing your 8 hours, but then you get beyond the 8 hours. You're doing extra working. You're staying late, you're coming in early. You're giving all your all to everything else but you. And then again, even as you pursue your entrepreneurial ventures, you made comment earlier about me having my family there. That is such a critical thing, because it's not just about the encouragement and the support of the family. It's also making sure, again, that you're not neglecting them in the process of chasing the dream and chasing the calling, chasing the purpose. We got to make sure that that balance is there. So, and then of course, part of that restoration, as believers, is we got to make sure we got that time to just that we're checking in with God. You know, whether it's studying in His Word, whether it's prayer, whether it's whatever you do to stay connected, to stay informed, to stay filled, that has to all be a part of that process. So for anybody who's, trying to figure that out, like we all are, even in our works, trying to still piece it all together and tie it all, you got to make sure that all of those elements are there, because you'll burn out, you'll tap out, and you won't be good to yourself or anybody else or your family, and you'll check out of this world way sooner than you should have, and that would just be a disappointment, because it didn't have to be that way. We have to be mindful of our own personal self-care, our own, as this mental health awareness month, we got to be aware of our own mental state of being, that we're doing things to prepare ourselves and prepare our bodies and our minds and our hearts and our souls in a way to where we are fully ready, fully armored up, fully equipped to take on the world, and do that. But it's all inclusive of everything being meshed together in order for it to work. Too much of anything one way and not enough of the other that's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for setting you up to just fall flat on your face in the worst way, and nobody wins in that situation. So
Yeah, most definitely. I gotta give a big shout out to Change. I was on his podcast. I did a pre-recorded on his podcast a few weeks ago. I'm looking forward to being released. He's in the comment section, so he likes what you're saying, Joe. So it's a quality time with and by yourself. You gotta have that time with God, have that time with yourself. I had to make sure I do that too because your body will warn you about the pain. Your body will warn you about a lot of things, and we know we gotta be creative. Let's keep our creative flowing going. We rest properly, and like you said, not to run on fumes. Because think about it, when we get in this flesh, we can say something that can destroy us by being tired.
mhm.
What you say about that, Joe? Because we so tired, we can say stuff that may offend someone that we may can never bounce back from. So what would you say about that, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're exhausted, not only does that affect you physically, but like I said, mentally, I'm not. If I'm foggy in the head, if I'm disoriented, if I'm not all tightened together, then my messaging is going to be off. I'm not going to be as powerful and impactful as I intend to be. I'm not going to be as profound and clear as I need to be. I'm going to be all over the place. I'm going to be disorganized in my thoughts. I'm going to be potentially misstepping in what I say. I'm not going to be fully engaged. And again, when I think about a calling, when I think about just entrepreneurship in general, and again, I spoke about this at the event that you and I first met at. I was like, to become an entrepreneur, I truly believe um, that it's a divine calling. It's a divine calling. You don't just wake up and say, "I'm gonna go in business." From I know people do that, but that's not the true essence of what it means to be an entrepreneurship. I believe that it's a divine calling on your life to do a thing, no matter what that area of focus in, whether it's motivational speaking, whether it's podcast, whether it's doing hair, whether it's an accounting firm. It doesn't matter. It's a divine calling that has been placed on your life to share with the world. And so you have an obligation, you have a responsibility to make sure that you are doing everything that you can to equip yourself in a way to where when people engage with you, when they get with you in whatever that service or product offering is, that they're getting the best of you. And they can't get the best of you if you're mentally burnt out. They can't get the best of you if you're not well rested. They can't get the best of you if you're not staying, like you talked about earlier, about taking that time to study. And we're not just talking about studying the Word of God. We're talking about just studying your craft. If you're not taking that time to,
Right.
to self, personal development, if you're not taking that time to understand that I can't do it all myself, and that there's some things I might need to connect with a coach or somebody like that knows the game and knows the process a little bit better than me, that they've already been through these bumps in the road that I'm now going through. You gotta do that, and it's a process. I mean, and again, have I perfected it? No, but I totally have a better understanding of it, and I'm striving to do all of those bits and pieces and putting the puzzle together, and it makes a world of difference as I've added those things in my life, as I've added those connects, as I've added those practices and habits. When I do those things, it's to my betterment. When I get away from it, when I drift into not allowing myself to maximize my mental health, when I get into those spots where I'm not allowing myself to be properly rested, I feel it. So it's like it's a constant reset, and that's okay. It's okay if you fall off. Just don't stay down there. Get
Right.
back up, realize okay, I can't keep doing that. I can't, I love watching the playoffs, but I can't necessarily wait till the game go off at midnight every night and expect to get up at the crack of dawn and be refreshed and ready to go. I can't, I can't allow the distractions here and there. I can't allow, the temptation to submit to the flesh and get too lazy and too, dismissive about the works that you talked about that earlier, like those moments when I don't feel like, doing any marketing today. I don't feel like it, because sometimes you just don't feel like it. But then you got to ask yourself, why don't I feel like it? Is it that I'm now disconnected from the work
Mm.
that I'm doing, or am I not feeling like it because I haven't done other things to keep myself energized and prepared, so that way for that hour or two here or there, or that 3 or 4 hours here or there, or whatever, that's why I'm not feeling like it because I've let myself down physically, or I've let myself down mentally, or I let myself down emotionally, or even I've let myself down spiritually because I've skipped a few days without talking to God. Whatever that is, I got to make sure that that my tank stays full, or at near the top, so that I can be, again, the best of me that I can be. And again, the
That's
best
it.
of you is not perfection, but it is still the best. It's still 100% of you. Nobody wants to Walk in His Ways podcast with your host 40% Furman Jackson Jr. Nobody wants to read the Blessings in the Street book with your 10% author Joseph Roberts. Nobody
Yeah,
wants that. They want
exactly.
all of us. So
They do. I mean, 1,000%. Because people feed off your energy. They
right.
gonna get excited because you're excited. When you're doing these shows and when you're doing these book signings, you don't go in half stepping. You don't go in uh when you know what it is. It's that they're not gonna gravitate, they just gonna leave. They don't want their time wasted. But they come off your site. They see how excited you are about your own product, they gravitate towards to it. But if
Mhm.
you're not excited, like you said, they're not gonna be receptive to it. And like I said, 10%, we want to give you all in all. You know, if God called you to do this, God placed you to do that, do it at 1,000%. Go harder than ever before because one,
Mhm.
you're pleasing God, you're doing His kingdom work, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And I'm at this point now in my life is have you got to have structure, of course. Schedule everything out because we only got 24 hours within the day, but mapping everything out, scheduling everything. Okay, I want to get this accomplished because we got so much time. We have to do things that okay, I want to get this set at a certain time, then I can move on to the next thing.
Mhm.
So how important is it to have structure? And also, when you're on this different frequency now, scheduling. How do you do your schedule? How do you handle your schedule? Do you put your schedule together? And I know you have your wife with you. So how do she put your schedule together, or you do the schedule? How did that work, Joe?
Well, as it stands right now, I'm probably the primary person who puts it together. I'm trying to, of course, again, because I'm incorporating, um, obviously the entrepreneur aspect of it. I'm trying to get better at coming up with more user-friendly ways to do it, and tracking things. And this is where my wife kicks in, and even where my daughter kicks in. I mean, my daughter's only 15 years old, but kids of today, they're much more technologically savvy than, say, we were when we were their age. So, I could be in my computer doing something, or on my phone doing something, and my daughter will walk up to me and she'll be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm saying, "I'm trying to do such and such, such, such." She's like, "Hand me your phone," or she'll say, you know, "Scoot over a bit and get in front of the computer," and you need to set it up like this so it's just easy. So just I have to that and this is the part of you having to understand where your vulnerabilities are, where your weaknesses are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't know it all. And so sometimes you can kind of get locked into a way of doing things. And the funny thing is you used to talk about older people who would do that, and you'd be like, why you stuck in the past, and then as you start to get older, you realize you start to become some of those same people that you used to talk about, where you kind of get stuck in the past doing stuff that I was just so used to doing it this way, but that's maybe not necessarily be the smart way to do it, or how we talk about work smarter, not harder. And so um, it's really more about, I'm trying to build up my calendar now, more so about not just things that I know about that I'm doing, because it's really a two-part process. You obviously have the things that like I knew today I was going to have the podcast, so I could put that on my calendar for that. But then it's also, particularly as an entrepreneur, you're wanting to calendar in a way where you're talking about the stuff for the future that maybe it hasn't happened yet, but I'm planning,
Right.
I'm forecasting that I want to achieve this and I want to achieve that. And that's something that I have had to learn to get better at, being new to the entrepreneurial space, of,
Right.
okay, what is your plans for the month of May? What's your plans for the month of June? Is it too soon for you to be thinking about what your plans are, even for the rest of this year? Do you even have some tentative plans, like how many podcasts you want to be on, how many book signings you want to do, how many events you want to do? Do you at least have that stuff laid out, because it's something about you being able to, it's one thing to think about what you want to do, it's another thing for you to see it in front of you.
Mm,
The visualization of it all kind of enhances the reality of it possibly even happening. So if it doesn't happen, okay, it doesn't happen. Or if it has to be rescheduled, okay, it has to be rescheduled. But at least you had a plan. And I think that's what's really significant when you're in that, whether you want to refer to it as an entrepreneurial space or whether you just want to go even more direct with it and just say, when you're operating in that calling, you need to be thinking, you need to be thinking about it and thinking big and thinking the long game. Like, okay, this is what I'm shooting for, this is what I'm planning for, and put it out there and lay it before yourself so you can visibly see it, visibly have access to it at the easiest way possible, so that you truly, because this is what helps, I think, helps you stay locked in versus it just being
mm,
something, a thought in your head. Because when it's a thought in your head, it's to me, it's almost like the equivalent of running in place. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not moving anywhere. But it's in my head. It's all here, and it might be good stuff. But until you get it from your head onto the paper, onto the screen, onto actually making some active moves and planning that thing out, only then does it start to become more the reality and versus just a vision versus just a dream. It's
right.
activated now. So that would be my thought to people who find themselves stuck in that moment. And again, I haven't perfected it yet, but I'm getting better at it. And that's just something that you have to do more of, to just give yourself the big picture vision. This is what I'm doing. This is how my schedule is looking. And that also allows you to, as we just talked about earlier, in the midst of all of that, this also helps you to also make sure that you're filling in that appropriate time being set aside for you individually, as well as if you have family members or what have you, being able to make sure that you're carving out those times as well. So,
Yeah, most definitely. And I got to give a big shout out to the great Dr. Miles Monroe. He was a leader when it came to our kingdom and stuff like that. I was listening to him. He did a long time ago, and it was at a men's conference, and
okay.
he was telling, like, when a man asks a woman to marry him, her response should be not that I love you, but her response should be, where we're going. What's the vision? You know, I need to see the vision on paper. If I'm gonna marry you, we're going somewhere. And I like that mindset, Joe, because as kingdom individuals or ourselves, God give us vision. You usually hear people say, "The man is the priest, the prophet of the home."
Hmm.
So it's important for us to hear from God, get direction from God, get to translate it to who we with in a process to say, okay, this is where we're going. And so I love that mindset that we have to develop. Okay, this is where we're going. Just like you're a father, you have a daughter. When that time comes where she brings the guy to meet you, you're gonna ask him these questions. What is your intentions with my daughter?
Hmm.
Is she's gonna be taken care of? That's kind of stuff back in the day that the father used to ask
Yeah,
the guy,
yeah.
how you gonna provide for my daughter?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Valid
So it's
questions.
like, so I like that we need to bring that back to the generation. I don't have any children, but I'm saying, or you meet somebody's father, he should ask you this question: what is your intent for my daughter? Is she's gonna be taken care of? Because I'm blessing you with her, but at the same time, I need to know that you know that I know that it's gonna be for the long haul and not a temporary because you want to look over the other side of town.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's valid point. I mean that vision and everybody being on the same page of where you're at. Like I said, even as an entrepreneur, that's one of the challenges that I've had. Like I said, I have a wife, I have a daughter, and while they are very encouraging and supportive of what I do, um, you know, because I'm the one that's directly in it, you know, there are things that I have to communicate that they need to understand that this is a certain amount of time commitment that I have to give to this in order for it to go anywhere. So you have to be able to allow me that space to be able to do that. It especially becomes important when the issue of finances comes up. As you already know, when you're trying to build something that is of greatness. Matter of fact, you know. An old pastor of mine used to talk about how he would say big ministry is expensive ministry, and there's truth to that. It's not about just trying to hustle people out of some money, whatever. These things
Right.
cost. When you do podcasts, when you write books, when you go to different engagements to speak at or just even network or what have you, there's financial things that come with that. And when you're somebody who it's not just you have other people to think about, and you're like, well, hey, I got this program that I want to get connected with. It's going to be very beneficial to me, and the sign up for that is, 5 grand for 2 weeks, and you look on their face like, where we getting that from? Or it costs this to put on this production. I gotta hire somebody for this. I gotta, contract out somebody for that. This is what the money's looking like. And you're like, well, okay, I see that, but where are we gonna get that from? How's that gonna work out? Especially if you don't, a lot of us, especially, starting off in our businesses and everything, we don't always have, coming in the door that big investor or that big stack of money that's sitting off to the side. We're a lot of times kind of piecing it together the best we can and doing what
Right.
we can with that. And it can be challenging. So, like you said, that communication and the vision. Again, you got to get people. If you want people to support the vision, they got to buy into the vision. They got to see something of value and substance in what you're doing. That you're not just It's not just something random to pass the time that you're getting ready to throw a whole bunch of money at, but not put the work in, or
Right.
put in the effort or the details, the attention to the details that are going to be necessary in order for it to catapult into something great. Now, on the other side, I see you got great vision, great value in it. Even if it looks like it's going to be a challenge to do, people will be more likely to be on board with, okay, let me see, I might be able to help you with this. And again, the help may not always be financial. It could just be, I got a skill set that I might be able to share with you. I know somebody I can connect you with. I know this, event over here that you need to go to. You're going to get the resources that you need to know about or whatever. But yeah, that vision matters. That vision is huge. If you don't have it, then you're just kind of playing around with with things. You're not really,
Yeah.
seriously locked in to what it is that you're going to need to do to
Right.
be successful.
So in other words, just like you just existing.
Yeah.
The book by Bob Proctor, he says the art of living. He said you should be living instead of existing. When you're in your mission and you're in your assignment, you're living instead of just existing. You hear the cliche, I'm just getting by just to be getting by and all that. So that's just existing. But living is I'm taking chances, I'm taking risks, I'm fulfilling my obligation as a man, in my calling, in my purpose, in my destiny, fulfilling God's will for my life. The,
Hmm.
the prayer is, let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Hmm.
So what we want, we want the will of heaven to intervene in our lives here in this physical earth that we're in. God wants us to enjoy the good things of life. Instead of having that mindset, well, I'm just going to enjoy when I get to heaven, but He wants you to enjoy right now. That's why I said, let thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So that should be our priority time is, okay, I want His will to be done in my life as it is already. It's already been set out in heaven. So
Hmm.
now it's getting it down here in my life that I can fulfill it. Of course, you have to be willing and obedient. She need to get to the lane. Isaiah 119 says that. But just to experience that, not for ourselves, before we come in contact. Even the Bible says a good man leaves a inheritance for his children. Dr. Miles Monroe said that we should think generationally. That's a man that thinks generationally when he started leaving a inheritance for my children.
That's vision. That requires vision for you to think generational wealth. And, I certainly want to position myself in a way to be able to do that, for my daughter, and for her kids that she has and so on. I want to be in that position. Um, if there's any regret, you just wish that you knew these things sooner.
Right.
But at the same time, it's still never too late,
Never.
especially again, and I go back to, especially with God, it's never too late. Some lessons take us a little bit longer to learn than others, but at the end of the day, if you understand the vision, if you understand what it's going to take, and you trust in God to move forward with that game plan, God will amaze you every single time, and you just have no idea. You just got to stay the course, and make sure that you ride in that course along with Him, not doing, like you said, His will, not your will. And that may mean foregoing some things that you might want to, or foregoing some people that you might want to connect with. That may mean, um, you know taking some time out to stay locked in and focus on some things, that are of importance to him versus, just getting out here and just wilding out doing whatever. That doesn't mean that God doesn't, uh, you know, say that we can't have fun, that we can't enjoy life. I mean,
Right.
I think a lot of people, those who may not be believers, have that misconception that to live such a life means that it's a boring, restricted, can't do anything, can't have fun. No, it doesn't mean that. It's all about order. It's all about um, perspective. It's all about making sure, we prioritize things in its right way. But I think if you do all of those things collectively, along with having that relationship in place, having him as your foundation for everything that you're doing, maintaining that trust, keeping those lines of communication open with him, again, sky is the limit as to what can happen as a result of that. And that's the mindset that we have to have, to realize the greatness that God has placed on your life, the reason why he created you, to be who you are uniquely and individually, to contribute to this world, and more importantly, to advance his kingdom. So,
Yeah, and that's what's up right there. Advancing this kingdom. We know this is already May 10th, 2023. We're already the fifth month of 2023. We know that this year's flying on by,
mhm,
and it's to really to just get the things accomplished, Joe, that we should be getting accomplished. The things that we know we need, and it's not like we don't know. We do know, and we see it. It's on our heart, and we have to do it or not to procrastinate. We should be procrastinating. I know a lot of times it's so easy. We're not careful to get complacent. We get comfortable. You see a lot of these athletes who put in the work from park ball to middle school ball to high school to college. When they make the pros, you know, they do so good, and then they give them a big deal. And then once they get their big deal, they stop working. They get
mhm,
complacent, and then we shouldn't want to get like that. Yeah, the big payday gonna come for all of us, true enough. But we still gotta put in that work like we don't have a big payday. Because it's easy to get because we feel like, oh, I made it now, so I'm good.
mhm,
But the thing about it is, Joe, we have to maintain that success. We have to. It's like a house. Yeah, when you first bought the house, yeah, it looks good. But what happened? Eventually, you're gonna have to keep up the maintenance
mhm.
of the house. Eventually, you have to keep up keeping the house clean and all that other stuff. And that's what I mean. Because a lot of times we allow that spirit of complacency to come in,
Mhm.
and then
And
we
and
go ahead.
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like, when you talked about that complacency and that whole comfort zone mentality, the other thing that's not only is important, obviously, like you said, it once you realize success, you have to, in order to keep that success going, you have to maintain it. But one of the other things that you have to be mindful of that complacency and that comfort zone mentality is that if you're not careful, it can block you from your calling. That was something that I know personally I had to, come to grips with, and something that actually God has dealt with me directly on, even in recent times. As I share with you, I still have my 9 to 5, and it's been a long-standing career. It's been a career that I've experienced great, growth in terms of movement up the chain, and money's made. And so sometimes what can happen is when you experience that in, like I say, in a career setting, and that career setting has allowed you to, as you stated, to purchase the cars, to purchase the houses, to experience certain things that you had a chance to experience. You get comfortable, you get locked in, you get the security of it all. You can start to cling on to a little bit too hard,
Mhm.
and as a result, there's this calling that's on everybody's life that you continue to put on the side, that you continue to ignore, that you continue to not water, to not grow, to not flourish. And so, you know, what I know personally, God will, if he knows he's placed a calling on your life and he has a work for you to do, he's going to let you know, hey, it's time for you to do that thing. And if you're slow dragging, slow moving to do that thing, what God will do is he will make what's been comfortable to you a little bit uncomfortable. And he has
Right.
his own unique ways of doing that. And again, it's not about making life miserable for you. It's not about causing, stress and pressures on your life. But it's sometimes God has to shake your world up a little bit to get you to elevate and take that next step to get out of your comfort zone and into your calling. Because that's the ultimate mission. God didn't put us on earth to just um, grow up, get a job, have a career, work at that place for 30, 35, 40 years, retire, and then die.
Mm,
That it wasn't He's bigger than that. His vision for our lives is way bigger than us just going through the routine of that. Each of us has a calling. We've been created to serve. We all have a purpose, a divine, specific uh outline purpose for each of our lives as to how we were to contribute and in the manner in which we were to contribute. But it requires us to come to the realization of that and say, you know what? It's cool. I'm thankful that you provided me an opportunity to earn income, to care for my family, to have access to certain things in life or whatever. But ultimately, it's the calling that is the priority. Ultimately, it's the calling that I have to be drawn to and that I have to activate and get out there and do the thing that you've called me to be, as a man, as a woman, whatever the situation is. We got to operate in that space, and we cannot afford to get locked in that complacency, in that comfort zone. um, because even individually, what you start to find out is that you're no longer fulfilled.
oh
you
yeah,
start
yeah,
you
yeah.
start to find out that, yeah, you might make six figures, but all of a sudden that money, is cool, but it's not. You still feel empty. You don't feel, you've done some cool things maybe on the job, but there's still something missing. And when you're feeling like that, that is God telling you you're not operating in your calling. He's telling you that I don't care how long you've been in this space, I don't care, how comfortable and secure it is. You need to gravitate towards what I created you to do, what I created you to be. Does that mean that in moving into that space, that now you're gonna go from having to not having? Does that mean you're gonna be, out on the streets homeless, operating in your calling? No, because God would never lead you down a path of calling, a path of purpose in life for you to fail. He's not going to lead you down that. It's just that we want to know all of the particulars and all the details and how everything is going to play out. We want to know all that information up front. And God is saying, well, if I tell you all that up front, then what would be the purpose of faith? What would be the purpose of you believing and trusting in me to guide you accordingly in this calling path that I've placed on your life? No, I'm not going. I'm going to tell you just enough that you need to know to move. What you need to do is do that. Just move. Move in that direction. I'll take care of the rest. I'll fill in all the gaps. You just need to activate. You just need to move towards that. Don't get stuck in your comfort zones. Don't get stuck in that place of security all the time, because there are many people who have come in and out of this world that did just that, and we never had an opportunity to fully experience the gifts that God had placed in them, all because they were more attached to the security and the comfort than they were to the calling and sharing of the gifts with the world. So,
Yeah, and most definitely. And I was just thinking about this you talk. I was just thinking about the whole maintenance part when I went to go get my feet done yesterday after work. When I got off that morning, maintenance. I had to maintain my feet. We got to maintain our body. It's like we can't let it's like we don't let anything go. We got to make sure we keep the maintenance up on our bodies, like we keep the maintenance up on our vehicles. That's still part of it. Joe, people don't realize that they still have to keep up the maintenance. God holds us responsible for the things He allowed us to manage over, being a faithful steward. I want to say, the Bible said that our body is the temple. You know what I'm saying? The Holy Ghost dwells in our body as a temple. So we have to maintain that, take care of it, take better care of it as we go along this life's journey to fulfill our purpose, to fulfill the destiny have for our life. Because, like you mentioned earlier, people want to chase the bag, but they sickly. They want to chase the bag, but their family is torn apart. They want to
mhm,
chase the bag, but they don't know who they are. They want to chase the bag that they'll sell. They gain the whole world, and yet lose their soul.
mhm,
We still have to be more responsible on all walks of life.
exactly.
Maintaining, keep being faithful stewards, not selling ourselves short, not compromising, not selling out for the almighty dollar. But it just thinking about how we gotta maintain, we keep taking care of ourselves in that process. Being healthy is very important too. Um, Even the Bible tells us, He said, "Beloved, which above all things." That even though we prosper in our soul, we got to prosper in our health too. No, being healthy is God's will for our life. That's in the Bible. You know, you hear people eating healthy, keeping ourselves hydrated, drinking plenty of water. People always say it's too expensive to eat healthy, but okay, I rather eat healthy than I'm paying all this money for medication that I could avoid in my life.
True. True.
You really be spending more money now. You got to go get this different medication, the different tests and stuff. But as you being an entrepreneur, how do you maintain your nutrition? Because I know by you being on the go, I know you have to stay healthy. So how do you maintain your nutrition?
To be honest with you, this has been an area that has been challenging for me. Because I have, like I said, growing up, I didn't, I didn't always obviously grow up eating, healthy and, and all those kind of things. So what you a lot of times what ends up happening if you are somebody like myself, who hasn't always over the time of life done the best job of taking care of yourself, you're as you said earlier, your body will tell you. You'll start to feel those aches and pains and
Yeah, I know,
and
right?
things of that nature. So one of the things that we've tried to do as a household, and my wife has been a major contributor in that effort, is just trying to come up with healthier alternatives in terms of food choices and things of that nature. Again, you got to understand when that's not your gift, you got to understand who to defer to. And in this case, I have the pleasure of being able to defer to my wife, who's really good at coming up with researching and coming up with creative ways where we can eat, flavorful, fulfilling meals, but they're also at the same time of a more healthier choice. So she's been really big on kind of helping us become a little bit more accountable in terms of our eating habits. She'll press me about making sure that I'm taking the time to whether it's my annual physicals or doing my other required things that I need to do to make sure I'm all checked out and in good condition and all of that. I could stand to lose a few pounds, like I'm sure a lot of people may feel that way. I my exercise, a lot of my exercise, I try to get in the morning, just by way of taking my dog out for a walk. So I get to exercise him and I get to exercise me
Right.
simultaneously. Do I need to do more, exercise? Absolutely. Do I need to continue to improve upon my eating habits? Absolutely. But the key is you gotta, again, it's about being conscious of what you need to do and then saying, okay, where are we going to start with?
Right.
We can't, a lot of times, if you've been doing it the wrong way the whole time and then you try to overnight it, kind of like we do at the beginning of the year when we say, okay, it's my New Year's resolutions. I'm gonna eat healthy from now on. I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna drink 12 gallons of water a day, and then by the second or third day, you done already blown the the plan. It comes down to setting realistic goals for yourself, staying consistent with it. And then, as you reach certain plateaus, you kind of build and build and build and build. And that's kind of where I'm at, where my family is at. We're just kind of taking baby steps to get better because at the end of the day, not only for the work that you've been called to do, but just again, having a family, I want to be around. I know that there will come a day that I'll breathe for the last time and the heart will beat for the final time. And I don't know exactly, none of us do, the day or the hour when those things will happen.
Right.
But for the life that I do have, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm able to live it, at length and be able to do it within my right mind and in my right, with the ability to physically be in relatively decent shape. But the last thing that I would ever want to do, I know that was even something that my mom, before she passed, that was always a worry of hers. She never wanted to be, in her mind, as she would say, she never wanted to be a burden on me in terms of, having to take care of her. because she couldn't do for herself. And I feel the exact same way. I would hate, whether it was to my wife or even to my daughter, I would hate for her life to be, um, stymied in any way or burdened in any way, all because my neglect of self physically was such that now you're having to play doctor to me.
Right.
Because I didn't take care of me, now I'm a burden on you, or you're having to financially take on some things because you got to put me in a home, or pay for some, medicine, expensive medicines, or things like that. I don't want to be that way to my family. And like I said, for the purposes of the work,
Yeah.
I have to use my work as motivation to, as we shared earlier in the broadcast, is, we got to be at full strength as best as we can. So that means getting out
Got
there
to.
and working out a little bit, eating better, drinking more water, getting proper rest, all of those things collectively to make sure that we're at our best. We just got to commit to it. And it's not always easy. But it's necessary. So
It
I'm a
is.
work in progress. I own up to it.
We
I'm a
all
work in
is.
progress, but I do understand what needs to happen. It's just I'm kind of taking my baby steps to get to that level. So
We all is, Joe. We all is. I know it's important because I look at, and I tell anybody, you don't have to be a household name to be great. You just be great who you are, and
mhm,
you always want to put in that work. Where you may not be a top athlete, you could be an executive. You could be even you can even be a janitor if you want to. But the purpose is all about taking care of yourself, investing in yourself, investing in your health. Because I look at it as being when you're a business owner, you're in the world of business. I know you have to take care of yourself because you're your own source of income. You got to get out there and make your own income, of course. But
mhm,
you have to know make sure you staying healthy, especially when you go and do these book signings. Me doing this podcast, we want to look our best. We don't want to look all sluggish and all
right.
over the place. And when people meet you in person, you just looking all beat up and worn down, and it's like, nah, it just nah. I don't be like that. But maintaining that energy because you gotta realize this work don't stop.
hmm
You gonna go places, you gonna travel places, and you want to make sure you represent yourself, represent God, and you want to do that 1,000%. Don't want to look down, don't want to beat up, worn out, and people, I can't see this.
Right, right. And that I mean that's true. I mean, you getting up there on stages and venues and things like that, and you coming halfway, either due to lack of preparation or just due to you just lack of self-care. Yeah, you'll be flat. And that'll be a disappointment. It'll be a disservice
Yeah,
to the calling, as well as to the people who invested their time and money to come out to see you, only to get like I said, to get a flat, um, you know, engagement with you. You don't want to do that. And those are things that we can control. Just doing better about ourselves in terms of the care and the upkeep, and again, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually,
right.
in all realms. So
And most definitely, I know about the great to get off the air this morning. I appreciate you, Joe, hanging out with me on your
absolutely, man.
podcast.
Anytime.
And we know that you have the book Blessings in the Streets. How can people get in contact with you? I know you got a lot of other projects as well going on. So how can people follow you on all your social media platforms?
Well, as far as if you want to learn more about products and services that I have, whether it's booking speaking engagements or accessing to the book, you can go to my website at josephbroberts.com, and that'll give you the links to anything. And like I said, in terms of connecting with me, speaking opportunities, consultations, coaching, or of course to purchase the book, Blessings in the Streets. Of course, I have my Facebook page. I have a Blessings in the Streets Facebook page that you're welcome to encourage to follow. I put a lot of inspirational content on there and things of that nature. I'm also on Instagram as well. You can check me out on there at Mr. Joseph B. Roberts. That's my Instagram handle. So yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of like I said with the book, still out here, connecting with different groups and such, and speaking opportunities to talk, to delve into the themes of the book. And it's a very powerful read. It will definitely be of encouragement and empowerment to those who are trying to understand what it truly looks like to not only face adversity, but to be able to overcome adversity and trusting God along the way in the process. Um, Understanding that nothing too big for you to get through, as long as you have God in your life, and along the way, and going through that journey with Him. So personal testimony, everything is a true story. I think you'll be pleasantly pleased with it. But yeah, that's what I got going on. Aside from that, I'm currently in the works. I'm looking at later this summer actually to launch my own podcast. So that's still in the works, but I'll be having more information about that. Those will be the Blessings in the Streets podcast. So just kind of taking it an extension off of the book. So working on that right now, and just aside from that, just letting God lead me to where He has for me to go. So just grinding it out, man, doing my thing, checking you out, grinding it out, doing your thing. I'm real proud of you, man. I mean,
Appreciate it.
you're doing a great work. So, like I said, it's been a pleasure being on your show again, man, and much love to you and the work that you do. And I'm looking forward. I should be. We'll probably. I guess we'll see each other next month at the conference. For the Dallas Boss the prayer conference. So that'll be cool. Um,
Right.
but yeah, yeah, man, you're doing great works, man. I'm proud of you. And again, as always, it's been a pleasure being on your podcast, man.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. I know I thought I'd be able to attend this month, but of course my work schedule, I didn't get to be able to get the time to be able to be there. I kind of hated that, but I know that God has everything for a reason, so I won't be there. I hate that because of my work schedule, but I thank God for the opportunity and being nominated, of course. And still, you keep doing the great work yourself. Um, also, I see you doing a lot of great things, different platforms, talking about your book on all social media platforms. And I'm looking forward to the podcast as well, Blessing the Streets podcast. Look forward to that also. Just keep maintaining, keep putting up the great work that you're doing. Let me ask you before we're ready to get off. Is there any more books in the works as well?
At this time, there isn't. I'm not saying that there won't be. Again, that's just one of those things that projects that I kind of got in the backdrop that I'm thinking about. As possibly coming up with a follow up. Not only a follow up to the Blessings in the Streets, but also some other material. So again, working on some things. Kind of filtering it through to see, what would be the best direction to go with that, and how it would be most impactful to people. Like I said, when it comes to writing books, man, you always want to put out a quality product, and I want to make sure that I'm not just writing a book just to say I wrote some more books, but just making sure that it's something that's going to be immediately impactful and influential, what people need. And so that's kind of going through that process, but it's definitely something that's on the table. And as I get closer to making that decision, of course, obviously I'll make that known out there for everybody to be on the lookout for. So,
And that's what's up. So, you have any final remarks, Joe, for the listening audience?
just final remarks would just be, hey, just no matter what you're going through in life, as we shared earlier today, it's not about if, it's when those storms will come. We all go through the valley experiences of life. It's a part of the life journey. Just understand that you don't have to be consumed by those moments, that these moments in life don't have to take you out, and that these moments in life are not a personal attack against you from God. He allows for these moments to happen in our lives as a source of development, as a source of growth, as a source of strengthening us in such a way to where we're not only be able to rely upon Him, to trust in Him, to know that He's our support, He's our covering, He's our protection, but just also to be able to position us to be a blessing to other people. You never know that the things that you go through, the things that you experience, that the why of you going through it, how much it might ultimately transition into a blessing for someone else. So you receive it for what it is. You lean on God for the strength and the comforting and the understanding that you need to have in order to get through it. But just know that in the end, I promise you, you'll be stronger, you'll be better, you'll be wiser as a result of it, regardless of how hard, how strenuous it may seem to be. As long as you got God in your life, and as long as you're leaning on Him for that comforting and that understanding and that peace that only He can provide, you will live a life of fulfillment. You will live a life of greatness, and again, you'll live a life that will be minimized in terms of that worry, and most importantly that fear that we oftentimes kind of gravitate to, that we shouldn't be, because we have a God that is capable of doing big and awesome and wonderful things, and he just, most importantly, he loves us unconditionally. So um, that would be my message to you. Hang in there, keep fighting the good fight, operate in your calling. Don't be afraid to step outside of that comfort zone, whatever comfort zone that is for you. If God is calling you to do a particular, you know, walk, don't resist that. Instead, seek to move forward in that and embrace His understanding. If you need clarification, reach out to Him and ask Him to clarify for me, make it plain for me. But don't stand still. Keep moving forward towards what He's calling for you to do.
And most definitely, I appreciate you, Joe, once again. The name of the book, Blessings in the Streets, is available right now on social media platforms. Get with Joe if you want to purchase a copy of the book.
There you go.
A great book and story about his family, of course, like that. You'll learn from it, get to know Joe as well. Look up Joe when he got different special appearances, book signings. Y'all follow up with him, connect with him. Great spirit, humble man, humble individual, great general in God's kingdom. I appreciate you, King, as well. Keep up the great work. Also, everybody ready to get off the air this morning, everybody. Y'all have a great Wednesday. Also, remember the graveyard. Everybody had one thing in common. They thought they were going to see tomorrow, and they didn't. Let's live life like it is our last. And most importantly, encourage yourself, stay focused, stay purpose driven, mission minded, and most importantly, love yourself, invest in yourself. And ladies and gentlemen, realize we still have work to accomplish here on earth. You know it, I know it. It's always that little nudge to say, hey, you know what? We got to fix this area. We got to go here. We got to go there. And I'm not just talking about financially. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually wise. We got to take it to the next level, y'all. Let's finish it out strong. It's already the fifth month of 2023. We got work to do. I got work to do. Joe got work to do. We all got work to do. And you're not by yourself. I will be back here tonight, here on Walking This Way's Impact What's podcast, prime time at 7 p.m. So, man, y'all have a great Wednesday, and I will see y'all right here on Walking This Way's Impact What's podcast tonight at 7. We're live streaming right. Big shout out to everybody watching us on Twitter right now. Big shout out to everybody who's watching us on YouTube. Big shout out to everybody who's watching us on Facebook Live. And most important, big shout out to everybody who's going to listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, on all social media platforms. Be blessed, everybody. Peace.